Hi, this is Don Henley, and I was born and raised in Linden, Texas.
Hello, I'm Willie Nelson, and I'm from Abbott, Texas.
I'm Jimmie Vaughan, and I'm from Austin, Texas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Johnny Winter, and I'm from Beaumont, Texas.
My name is Waylon Jennings, and I'm from Littlefield, Texas.
My name's Joe Ely. I'm from Austin, Texas.
Hello, I'm Michael Nesmith. I was born in Houston, raised in Dallas, went to school in San Antonio, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
San Antonio.
Austin, Texas.
Lubbock, Texas.
Brownsville, Texas.
I'm Dusty Hill.
I'm Frank Beard.
This is Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top coming to you from all over Texas.
I'm Tim Summer. Welcome to Rock and Roll Cities. This is Austin, Texas. Just 150 years ago, Texas was an independent republic, and the self-reliance of those days, the spirit of independence, even the spirit of tolerance with which Sam Houston tried to run his republic, well, that's still very much alive in this huge state. We can't tell you the whole story of Texas in just one little TV show, but we can show you some of the voices, some of the faces, and bring you some of the music of some of the state's most famous sons and daughters.
I like Texas people, I like Texas women, and I can't think of living anywhere else. When you're flying back home, you can almost tell when you fly over the border. It's like, oh, I'm in Texas.
It remains with me. I've lived here in Los Angeles almost 21 years now, and I still feel like a Texan.
The one quality about Texans, to me, that used to seem to distinguish it from other places that I lived in America was the heart of the people. The people seem to have compassion for their brothers.
I mean, there's still a lot of people who believe that, you know, we ride horses and carry 6 guns, but we do wear cowboy boots.
When you're born and raised in Texas, just because you're a Texan, you're taught to believe you're a little bit bigger, a little bit tougher, and a little bit smarter than anybody else.
Everybody that I know from Texas is proud to be from there, and we brag about it a lot. But the reason is we have a lot to brag about.
Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. Bastards hung me in the spring of 25. But I am still alive.
We've got a lot of things down there that you don't have a lot of other places. A lot of space, for one thing. It gives you a different frame of mind.
Well, to me, I've always thought it's the miles. There's so much space in Texas, and I think it goes back to that vacuum. I think certain people grow up in this mysterious vacuum, and, you know, the dusty plains is kind of a true thing. You know, there's miles between people, so you kind of accumulate this feeling for the place you're living in, and you reflect that in your music and in your lyrics.
There's a lot of soul down here, you know what I mean? It really is. There's a lot of heart and soul involved, and all the people that work here and ride here.
The honky-tonk, the roadhouse, that's born and bred in Texas, I suspect.
Yeah, me and Billy the Kid never got along. I didn't like the way he parked his horse and he wore his gun all wrong. One day I said to Billy, I got this foolproof scheme. We'll rob Wells Fargo. It's busting at the seams. I admit that I framed him, but I don't feel bad. 'Cause the way I was living was driving me mad. Billy reached for his gun, but his gun was on wrong. No, me and Billy the Kid, we never got along.
I might have sacrificed maybe a record on the charts or something, but I think it's more important in the long run, you know, that you stay where you really feel like you, what inspires you. There's a stretch of road up in West Texas between a little town called Snyder and a town called Slayton. Every time I drive that piece of road, I always write a song.
You know, Texas is flat and wide, and the horizons beckon continually if you live there. It's mountainous, tends to make you introspective, and if it's flat and wide, it tends to pull you out of yourself. That happened to me in Texas.
Her name was Joanne, and she lived in a meadow by a pond.
To me, that's where it all starts, is in the physical terrain. And from there, the culture is shortly behind.
Look, here comes a prodigal son. Fetch him a tall drink of water. But there's none in the cup, 'cause he drank it all up. Left for a prodigal daughter, singing, oh, Cotton Eye Joe.
There's a looseness, a loose limbness to Texas that I guess is best expressed by howdy y'all.
Singing, oh, Cotton Eye Joe, oh, Cotton Eye Joe.
Being from Texas is a badge of honor amongst a lot of players. It's a pretty cool thing.
To me, roots, basic, top of the line, biggest deal Texas music for the last 30 years, ZZ Top. They just know the way around these guys. I mean, that's that's as fast as the traffic goes.
They're probably the best-known Texas act there is today. And the fact of the matter is, all three of them depend on roots elements of musics that are native to Texas to create this sound.
Probably they think of country first when they think of Texas, you know, and we didn't do anything to make that not be so, because we played up being from Texas for a long and wore that type of outfit, but we were playing rock and roll, and it was confusing everyone.
This state has made its mark in virtually every form of music under the sun: blues, country, R&B, conjunto. But if there's one genre that really belongs to Texas and in Texas, it's the reckless party rock of Tex-Mex. It's sort of like punk rockers playing polka at a Mexican wedding or something.
Hey, baby, ¿qué pasó? Thought I was the only vato. Hey, baby, ¿qué pasó? Won't you give me un beso, flaco?
Tornadoes, I think, you know, not bragging, but it's just a fact that we've really educated a lot of people who have, you know, by crossing over and selling a lot of records to country people, a lot of records to Spanish people.
Hey, baby, ¿qué pasó?
You can't tell the story of American music without the names of Texans. The musical roots planted in the state influenced not only other Texans, but worked their way into the American mainstream and beyond.
It was really great growing up with that wide a variety of music. You had the you know, Cajun stuff from South Louisiana, and then New Orleans R&B that was all over Texas, and of course the Tex-Mex and Mexican music in Texas, and Western swing, and early rock and roll, Buddy Holly. There was just about every kind of music that you could imagine, and a lot of the guys did make it out. Like T-Bone Walker, to me, pretty much invented electric blues guitar.
I started playing with the black bands. I met T-Bone Walker when I was like 15 years old. Yeah, in the mid-50s, us white guys wanted to play with the black bands.
Say back in the 60s, Austin was like the San Francisco of Texas. It was really the place where you could come and you had the least chance of getting your ass kicked, you know, for having long hair. And because Austin was a college town, they had beatniks and they had the Vulcan Gas Company, and they had hippies, and they had artists, and just different people. They were a lot more tolerant here.
I knew there were two sides down there. I knew there was the hippies and the rednecks, and they'd already drawn the line, and I happened to be working both sides of the line. And so I had a good insight on what was going on in both places, and I didn't really notice that much difference between a cowboy over here with long hair and a cowboy over there with short hair. And I felt like once they got together, they would see the same thing.
But he drew the hippies and the cowboys. See, when he came through, the rednecks went, you know, in them days, '72, when he moved here, you'd have a third rednecks, you have a third hippies. Man, the rednecks are, you know, trying to get out there and weird and grow their hair long. And that's where the Cosmic Cowboy came from. I mean, the Cosmic Cowboy was a heavy deal there. And I still kind of portray it.
Adios, Mexico. Adios, Mexico. Yo no voy a ser la estrella del abuelo. Adios, Mexico. One more time, all you want
The zenith of all of Austin's activities probably revolved at one time around the Armadillo, that being the focus of what was going on. In fact, a lot of Texas music momentum, I guess, could be drawn right to the Armadillo.
Cold beer and cheap pot was what got this whole thing started.
I have some nice memories of the Armadillo.
Yeah, right, the chair. And, yeah. Well, it became a place to play, you know, like everybody had played there. So if you didn't, you know, you felt left out. And it was always, it wasn't so much of a, it was very comfortable.
No air conditioning, no heat, no chairs. But for $3, you could see Van Morrison 3-4 nights in a row and sit on a concrete floor in a puddle of beer and try to make yourself believe you were having a good time. And lo and behold, became accepted as that.
It got real liberal in Austin. It was almost better than any place in the world.
Austin is the artistic capital of this state. It's also the real capital, yet it's a city full of contradictions. It's a growing Sunbelt town, it's a college town as mighty and as quirky as any, yet you're also going to find a ton of old-time dance halls and barbecue joints.
Yeah, I still have fond memories of Austin. That's where a lot of it was happening. You know, Austin is still probably the music city in Texas.
If you're very ambitious or commercially oriented, you're much better off being in New York or in LA or in Nashville. But I think people here are more artistically inclined. They're willing to sacrifice whatever commercial potential they may have to be truer to their art.
You could probably go into Austin any given weekend and find more diverse types of music, good music and bad music, but it's all there.
The backbone of Austin music is the live club scene, which is cheap, accessible, diverse, and extremely plentiful. It's centered here on 6th Street in Austin, which is probably one of the hottest strips for live music in the whole country.
I wanna live and love under the stars above. I wanna hold you close. You gave me hope anew when I was sad and blue, and nothing gonna keep us apart. I sang a lonely song till you came along. I'm headed for that bright sunny day, and I'm telling you what this love will do. I wanna live and love always. And it's not gonna tear the whole place up. We got a little too little, not too much. There's another there.
In Austin, the essence is the ability to play in front of an audience in a bar or a nightclub or in a live situation. That's the be-all, end-all of Austin music.
It's just music. You just play music. You don't have to worry about, well, how do I look tonight? You know, it's not so much worried about that stuff.
The horizons that some Texans follow stretch far beyond this state, and sometimes they even end there. There's a certain sense of sadness, a sense of loss to much of Texas music, whether it be loss of potential or just the loss of some very good friends. Inseparable from the story of Texas and the story of American rock and roll are the names of 3 very influential Texans who died young: Buddy Holly, Janis Joplin, and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
was the whole package. And I can remember when I was first starting to play, going over to Jimmie's house, and we would be, you know, messing around and playing. And remember Stevie, when he was just a little kid, he would want to play with us, and we'd, you know, shoo him off. And he lived under the shadow of his brother for a long time, but he became a monster. I mean, he just became a giant, especially after he got his problems sorted out. Last 3 or 4 years of his life, he was incredible.
Stevie Ray says more about what the Austin music scene means than any single artist. He came to Austin in search of creative freedom. He found it here, and he came up the hard way.
What was this town like the day he died?
It was shock. I mean, for me, it was like the Kennedy assassination. It's just this horrible thing has happened, and everyone had this feeling that their hearts were ripped out.
Mm. It's funny that just his name, and after everything's come down, always brings silence as soon as it's spoken, you know? It's a really strange thing.
He drank it all up, and then he gave it to the world, you know?
See, Buddy was the first, I guess you'd say, white rock and roll singer who wrote his own songs. You know, Elvis didn't write his own song. But Buddy started, you know, writing his own songs, and he was the only one that didn't sound like Elvis. We were friends for 7, 8 years, you know, but he would come to town, and I was a disc jockey in town. And I was with him just 2 or 3 months. They were to fly into Fargo, North Dakota, which is in between Fargo, North Dakota, and Moorhead, Minnesota, is where the airport was. But we pulled in, and the road manager came, he went in, and he came to the door and said, Waylon, come here. You know, I need to tell you something. And I knew, I just knew. I don't know how, but I knew that they were gone, you know. There's never a week goes by that I don't think about him, you know, and the person he was. He was a good man. He was like such an individual. He was a Texan, all the way a Texan.
But each time I tell myself that I can't stand the pain when you hold me in your arms, I say it once again. I say, come on, come on, come on, come on and take it. Take another little piece of my heart now, baby.
Janis was one of my favorite people. She was a lot of fun to be around. She sang with a lot of passion, a lot of heart, and a lot of sense of humor. You know, what her friends lost was that sense of humor. You know, I still think of her as a little girl clacking around the house in high heels, you know, and all those feathers and stuff, like a little girl in dress-up clothes or something, or miserable in a bar somewhere or something.
Well, Janis and I went to high school together, and we moved here about the same time, and there was a crowd of people that were, we were kind of proto-beatniks. We were too young to be real beatniks, and hippies weren't around yet, but we were different. We partied a lot, and Janis was right in the middle of that. She was an excellent singer. She had an incredible voice. She was loud and boisterous and said what she meant, and whatever was on her mind, and didn't mince words, and so she stuck out.
She was very strong, had very strong stage presence, which is obvious, you know, and it carried on off the stage. She was the same on stage and off.
You know you got it. Tell if it makes you feel good right now.
Texans remain Texans, no matter where their money or their fame carries them. It's a birthright as fierce and as proud as any in America. When a Texan talks about being a Texan, it's as if they were talking about the number of fingers they have on their hand or the color of their hair. It's an inseparable, unforgettable part of their being. And I've yet to meet a Texan who would deny being a Texan.
That's a state of mind, really, you know. I mean, once you're a Texan, you're always a Texan, you know.
There's something about Texas. I guess it's the soil, kind of like Scarlett O'Hara and Tara. You know, I just can't permanently move away from it. It's given me so much.
Well, I always miss Texas wherever I am.
I kind of, you know, did everything from jumping freight trains to hitchhiking across America and trying to find where it all came from, and ended up finding where it came from, back where I started from.
I think music is losing its soul, and I think that soul can still be found in the bars and back roads of Texas.
To the shaking on my knees, just a cold chill.